Hello, lovelies, and welcome to the Strides in Faith podcast, your one place for all things equestrian, mindset, and faith. I am super excited to help you feel empowered and strong and powerful in your faith and in the saddle, and how those two surprisingly overlap within our lifestyle. I am so excited to get into it with this debut episode, and I hope you enjoy. So this episode is a bit of a doozy, and it's why I started this podcast in the whole first place. So I think it's a great place to start. I'm tripping over my tongue. Those are staying in. Why? Because we're real and we're human and things happen. And let's be honest, sometimes you listen to a podcast and you're like, this is a little too perfect. Like, I know you guys are sitting on the couch lounging and it's supposed to be like, this is just us having a conversation. But sometimes I'm like, a very polished conversation, and maybe it's just me, maybe it's where I'm from, maybe it's how I was raised, but this podcast is real. It is live, it is real, and I'm actually recording this episode in my car. Fun fact, because sometimes that Holy Spirit hits you out of nowhere and you're like, all right God, I gotta do it. So what does it mean, and why is it important to be faithful in the saddle? This question, like I said, is why I started the entire idea of Strides of Faith. So to make it short and sweet, and I know it's a lot to unpack, and we're going to unpack it in this episode and in future episodes, it's that same level of trust that you have to have with God is what you have to have with the horse. I know you're like, duh, like, of course. But really think about it. Because at the end of the day, we either believe in an all-powerful being who has our best interest in mind, where we can never truly see him, and we have to put that same faith and that same trust in a 1,000-pound prey animal who, let's be completely honest here, thousands of years ago would have wanted nothing to do with us because we're built like predators. Are you starting to put the pieces together? Being faithful as an equestrian is more than just saying your prayers and reading your Bible and trying to live Christ-like. Yes, those are the main pillars. That's the foundation. That's what we all learned growing up in church. If you grew up in church, or if you started going as an adult, that's where you learned that there. Maybe in a Bible studies where you picked that up. You know what, wherever you did it, it's great. You can be faithful and not religious. I get it. Trust me. I've been there, kind of still am there. Shout out to the state of Missouri. So glad I moved here. But anyways, being faithful as an equestrian and being faithful as a Christian is a walk that surprisingly goes hand in hand. And I'm not saying that you need to pray to your horse or anything. Like, no, don't make an idol out of them. But having that same level of trust, that same level of connection and compassion and devotion to your faith as well as your riding is what's going to help you grow. It's what's going to help you blossom and flourish and feel confident and amazing and powerful in your riding journey. So one of the biggest things I've started doing that has helped me both in my faith as well as in my riding is just take the time when I'm tacking up or warming up to be grateful. Now, I'll admit it's currently winter, and sometimes you're warming up and you're like, please, God, if you're there, don't let this animal kill me. And if that's your situation, do what you got to do to be safe. I get it. I've been there. I just signed papers on a horse that they think has Hancock in it, so pray for me. But taking that time to be grateful about where you are and what you're doing and this amazing world that you're living in. And I don't know about you guys, but I've always felt more connected to God on the back of a horse than I ever had in church. Ever. I mean, yes, you can go to church and do the worship and do the songs, and you're like, great, things are happening and I feel good. But at the end of the day, I have always felt more connected to God in the saddle than I have in a church. And I think it's important that as equestrians, we recognize the power that the riding has, both as a self-care, as exercise, as a mindset practice, but also as a spiritual practice. Is being able to put ourselves in the moment and live it stride by stride by stride, and being able to take those strides both athletically, mentally, emotionally, physically, and in our faith, to be able to say, okay, I trust you, horse, that you are going to do what you can to take care of me. I'm going to do what I can to take care of you. And I trust that together we can reach this goal in the same step where I'm like, okay, God, I give it to you and I trust you and I trust that you're going to take this thing that I have, this idea, and if it is meant for my good, that you're going to take it and you're going to blow it up and you're going to do great things with it. And if it's not meant for my good, I ask that you take it out of my life. I hope that as we're going through this episode, you're starting to see kind of how those pieces come together. And like I said at the beginning, no, I don't want you to worship your horse and make an idol out of it. That's not the point of this. The point of this is to identify those basic steps of faith, those basic steps of trust, those basic steps of being able to just walk blindly and accept that it's going to be okay, and trust that it's going to be okay, and maybe even know that it's going to be okay, depending on your confidence, your faith, your belief, and where you're at. As equestrians, I want you to take the time to be grateful to God for all the amazing things that you have as you continue to walk, both in your faith journey and in your riding journey. Take the time in your warm-up to be present, even if it's just as simple as, you're walking around the ring on a loose ring. Maybe the horse is feeling a little hot, maybe it's feeling a little lazy, and you're like, you know what, God? I'm grateful for this opportunity to be present in the moment and spend this time with my horse. Thank you for letting me celebrate your goodwill and enjoy this wonderful world you have created. Even if it's something as simple as that when you're just going through your warm-up. And I know I said a lot of words and you're like, I'm not going to remember that. The point is not for you to memorize it and regurgitate it. The point is for you to speak from your heart in the moment. Just be like, you know what? I am here. I am in your creation. I am spending time with an amazing creature that you created, and I am so grateful for that. And having the faith that your ride's going to go well and that God's going to take care of you and that it's all going to be okay. I know right now the equestrian world can be a very scary place. I don't know about you guys, but I'm looking at my board bill come spring when this horse comes home and I'm like, I know I can afford it. But at the same time, the world feels so big and tumultuous and scary that I feel like all I can do is either run to the barn or run to my knees in prayer. And that is it. That is all I am able to do sometimes as a human being. And if you feel like you're in the same boat, I want you to know that you are not alone. I want you to know that even as you pass through these shadows, that God is going to be there and God is going to be with you. I think one of the most beautiful verses, and it's going to be our fun little verse of the episode, I'd love to just pick one verse and kind of unpack it a little bit, especially if it goes with the theme of the episode, is going to be 1 John 4:15. And that verse is going to be, whoever confesses that Jesus is the Son of God, God abides in him and him in God. And I think that really fits today's episode when you're able to walk into the barn and be like, you know what, God? Thank you for all of this, and I trust that you are going to watch out for my best interest, and I trust that this connection I have with the animal is going to be either strong enough, or my skill is going to be good enough, or we're going to have a peaceful time where we can be present in the moment, whatever it is you're working on. And to confess that proudly as equestrians. And maybe it's because I grew up in the English riding world and then transitioned over to the Western riding world. I feel like sometimes faith gets forgotten in the stable. Like you walk into the barn and it's like, hush, hush. And I'm not saying that if you're not religious or if you're not a Christian that, it's okay. That's fine. If that's you in your life, go for it. I have no place to judge you in that. But if you are somebody who is a Christian and you are spiritual or you are religious and you're like, this is a really big aspect of my life and I feel like I set it down to do this hobby that I really like that also brings me a lot of peace. There's no shame in walking in the barn, and even if it's just quietly to yourself, if that's all you feel confident enough to do, to just, hey God, and just have a moment. There is no shame in being who you are and being authentic in your faith, because you're going to see those aspects come over to your riding journey and vice versa. When you're authentic in your riding journey, you're going to see how that confidence can apply to your faith. So I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. I know we've kind of bounced all over the place, but I just wanted to cover the basic ideas of what Strides in Faith is and why I think it's so important to have an equestrian podcast that is faith based. So I cannot wait to get into other episodes with you. If you want to follow me on social media, I'll have that down in the show notes. If you like the episode, I would absolutely love if you either A, followed the podcast, and or B, rated the episode, because there is going to be more to come and I cannot wait to share it with all of you. So I'm going to leave this here, but until next time, I will see you later, lovelies.